remote video and teleconference pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 403B2D and Section 6 of the Sanford City Council Rules of Procedure. Members of the public may join the meeting in person or remotely using the information posted on the meeting calendar on the city website. Members of the public may also submit comments via the website under government/city council/contact the council. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, would you join me for a moment of silence, please? And now, roll call. Deputy Mayor Herlihy. Councilor Martell is excused absence tonight. Councilor Hitchcock.
Present.
Councilor Trench-Montagne.
Present.
Councilor Hanselman.
Present.
And welcome back. Councilor Stackpole.
Present.
And I am Mayor Brink. Also with me are City Manager Steve Buck, and playing the role of Larissa Ricketts is our Assistant City Manager, Michelle Labrie. And minutes. In order to approve the minutes from the regular City Council meeting held on May 20, 2025. May I have a motion, please? Nate?
So moved.
And a second, Pete?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Thank you. And you're abstaining because you weren't here. In order to approve the minutes from the executive session of the City Council held on May 20, 2025. May I have a motion, Pete?
Yeah, motion to approve.
May I have a second, please? Nate?
A second.
Just switching roles there, huh? All those in favor? Thank you. And so you knew that there was, okay. And there is no subcommittee reports tonight, but I would like to thank Chief Small and the police who helped with 30 North Ave. It was a phenomenal thing to happen within the neighborhood. Could have been a little scary if you were a neighbor seeing all that happen. We apologize for that, but it was definitely necessary. And we had the ERAPs there, which actually gave us a safety zone for this to actually take place. If people were wondering why those were used, it was really for the public safety. So I just want to, again, thank the police department and everybody who was a part of that transaction, making that happen. Hopefully we can clean up that area and make it livable again. All right, moving right along, the city manager's report and the homeless task force, please.
Yes, thank you. The first item that I report out is the main paid family medical leave. The city and the school department worked during the budget process to solicit quotes for insurance to satisfy the main paid family medical leave and opt out of the state-run plan. City Council authorized the city and the school to obtain the requisite insurance through Metropolitan Life Insurance Company with an estimated 3-year savings of $336,144.76. That comes in the form of avoided premiums as well as then in reduced premiums, which would have been 1% under the state program, or we would be at 0.85% under the Metropolitan Life program. The state has approved the private plan and has issued the city a notice of private plan substitution approval. So that completes the process. I just wanted to make you aware of that. Other insurances, today was insurance day for whatever reason. The city currently has achieved our Tier 3. We've been in that for a couple of years now. Tier 3 for our workers' compensation that we get through Maine Municipal as well. And that reduces our premiums by 10%. And that's over and above what our mod rate is. Our mod rate is also decreasing rapidly. It's down to 1.36, and we expect that to drop significantly lower in the coming year because we have a high claim year that's coming off our record. So we did a review today with our insurance carrier. We've been assured that we've qualified for the Tier 3 yet again, so that will be reflected in next year's budget numbers as well. We also will receive an additional discount on our property and casualty insurance for this coming year of 10% for that portion of the police department that's covered under there, because they've achieved their MLEAP certification. So we haven't seen those savings yet, but we were assured further today that we will see those for starting 2026. We're also working on what's called the SHAPE Award. That's the Safety and Health Award for public employees. Another city I work for, we achieved that for all of the departments. Alex Hammerly, our facilities coordinator, is also the head of our safety committee. He's been examining our ability to get all of our departments into the SHAPE program. We still have one department that would be an issue of Parks and Rec, so we're trying to resolve that. And it's not because of non-compliance within the department, it's the way the reporting occurs. So since they have such a large number of part-time employees, somebody gets a scratch on the finger, when you look at the man hours versus the injury, it kicks them out for that department. So we're trying to resolve that. But the SHAPE Award will give us another 20% savings on workers' comp. So we're seeking to get that so we can maximize all of the areas of insurance savings as possible. I want to give my appreciation to the Safety Committee, the work that they've done, all the departments and representation there. It's paying dividends for the city, as was reflected in our rates and our mod rates. So, the syringe service program, or the needle exchange, I'm bringing this up because I recently had an inquiry from a neighboring city asking about was the syringe service change here when the city council, by ordinance, local ordinance, brought it back to a one-to-one exchange for any licensed syringe service program to operate here, as opposed to the one-to-one plus, which meant that was changed during COVID. You could bring in one needle and get a box of 100. So there was not an exchange program anymore. It was simply a syringe distribution program. That call never. I wasn't able to facilitate that call. I made the call, and they were non-respondent. But as part of the preparation for that, I called our parks director and asked what he was observing the department picking up. So he said before the change, typically when they would go through the parks and other public areas, they were picking up nearly a 5-gallon bucket a week. Picking them up every day, and then they dispose of the 5-gallon bucket. I said, what are you seeing now? He said 5 to 10. So from a bucket to 5 to 10 picked up over the span of a week in those same public facilities. So I think that was a dramatic difference.
Now, let's clarify, you mean 5 to 10 needles?
Yes.
Yes, instead of 5 gallons?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
That's the difference.
yeah.
Yeah, so. All right, the fire departments, city staff will be leaving here at 7:30 tomorrow morning to go to WBRC's engineering and architectural offices in Portland, where we will finish up, we're told, we're going to finish up the design development phase of the project. They have the design back out for final engineering cost assessments again in preparation for bid development documents. The site plan has been approved by the planning board. The State Historic Preservation Organization has also signed off on the site, artifacts or other moving parts that they're concerned about. The last of the permitting is with the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. As I've indicated before, we had to open up the SLOTA, the Site Location Development Act, for the high school because the two properties touch on the tip. And therefore, we had to amend that SLOTA for the high school and bring in the property that's there for the development of the fire station. So that process, to my understanding of not seeing any hiccups in that, is still going well. It's just a long, lengthy process to do the SLOTA. Shall we say DEP is significantly understaffed right now, so. All right, as far as the homeless task force and/or shelter updates, this past Monday, yesterday, administration met with there's a York County group that meets for the first hour, and then the second hour we dedicate by Zoom to our own task force. So in that first hour, they focused on updating the partners and communities that were participating in there about the changes in operations for the York County Shelter Program. I will note that larger group, the York County group, has dropped dramatically. It's had very poor participation in the last couple of meetings. I will say likely that's because warm weather is here, but when cold weather flies again, they'll all want to come back and say what's taking place. But anyways, the emergency adult shelter services in Alfred remains closed. The board of the shelter has not yet made a determination as to the final disposition of those facilities. That's very much up in question. What I can't say, what I don't have public information on at this point in time is what the brothers there are going to do as far as their final disposition of, will another entity take that over? Will the York County Shelter Board go back into operations? We don't know that as of yet. York County Shelter continues to operate the 27 housing units that they own that remain under operation. The family shelter here in Sanford, that currently is housing 16 people, has been funded through Main State Housing through the end of June. And then there's a private donation that will extend that operation at least to the end of July. But they're actively working on a succession plan. So Barbara Kreider was, I say, hired as an interim director. She's doing that without pay, trying to assist the board in reorganization and such under that. They're actively pursuing avenues for someone else to take that family shelter on, continue to operate it here in Sanford, and identify the requisite funding stream that's necessary. It's about $17,000 a month to run it in its current form is how it's being run. So there's a question as to whether can it be run differently than that and continue moving forward. A lot of conversation was expressed around preserving the ESHAP funding. That's the funding that comes to the shelter. In exchange for that, they have to provide housing navigation services. It's a significant piece of their overall funding mechanism. The concern is without the shelter operating, if that ESHAP, if there's nobody to pay that ESHAP funding to because the services aren't being rendered, then that ESHAP funding goes back out to the all other shelters. It gets redistributed to them, and it's very difficult to ever get that back. So that's part of the conversation ongoing now. There's a very active York County Housing Navigation Group that meets, I think, weekly, not bi-weekly, but I think they meet weekly. So the question is being raised with Main State Housing is, can that ESHAP funding be applied towards those navigators across a depth of organizations to preserve that coming here to York County? Again, I referenced that the Alfred facilities are still very much up in question. I continue to express the concerns that those are great facilities. If they're lost, if they lose the grandfathering, or if the brothers won't allow a future contract or such under that, where would such services be able to be recreated in York County? So that continues to be a concern. That group then went through a series of legislative bills that are being tracked. The summation of that is that the largest of those, which was LD 698, which was asking for $5 million for additional funding to go to the shelter services, that has passed the House and the Senate, but it's now sitting on the Appropriations Committee table with a question as to how that might ever be funded. Also out there is a multitude of bills for general assistance, talking about the eligibility or the lack of eligibility, trying to raise the GA reimbursement between the municipality and the state from 70% to 90%. Those are very much wavering at this point in time, but there seems to be a bill, I forgot the LD number, but there's a bill in there that looks at a progressive 5% incremental increase to go from 70 to 75 to 80 to 85 to 90 over a series of years for the state to make a greater contribution in there. My impression so far from the dialogue I've seen on that is likely that will come with some reductions in eligibility. See what I'm saying? They'll reimburse you more, but they'll shorten up the term that somebody's qualified for emergency housing and other aspects. Fate of that is still very much unknown.
What is the time frame of that right now? Is it 30 days, 90 days?
For
Eligibility?
about 30 days.
30 days. And so that's what they would shorten?
In a 12-month period.
In a 12-month.
Also, so then the city's homeless task force, I call it the homeless task force. We'd like it to be renamed. So we met the hour after that, and really the meeting focused on the 5 strategies to prevent homelessness in that work. And I want to thank Diane Small for drafting all of that. She took the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, who had a template. She populated that and identified all of the potential partners here in York County that could have resources to address somebody at risk for being unhoused or has just recently become unhoused. So that larger document was distributed out, and we're going to have on June 16th our first quarterly meeting with a larger group of service providers and others that have either, resources and services, access or regular communications with people that are at risk from being unhoused, to be able to push these resources forward to them or assist in making contact with them. The first meeting will focus on the 5 strategies and what the partnership should look like. It's looking at data-driven metrics, mapping of the services. I'm not talking putting a location, but mapping of what those services are, how they interconnect, how they can better be coordinated, developing an action plan of linking the resources to the individuals and how that can be accomplished more efficiently, and then implementation and tracking of the progress thereafter. So again, we're working with groups and providers that have pre-existing resources and services and seek to far better coordinate those. And most importantly, the difficulty is communicating this out to people that are at risk, that have never received services because they haven't needed to in the past. How do they become aware that let's get you this help so that you don't become unhoused, because it's far more expensive and far more difficult to provide services once somebody has become unhoused, and especially the longer they've been unhoused. So that will kick off in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No communications or presentations tonight. And Christopher, we have you under public participation. Can you turn your speaker on and you can present? I don't see him, he's off now. Okay, Christopher, I see that you're off now, so we'll just move right ahead to public hearings. I hereby open this meeting, a public hearing to receive comments in favor or against the new application submitted by, and hopefully I get this, Juro Farms LLC for a medical marijuana grower cultivator license at 72 Emery Street, Unit 212, Sanford, Maine. Is there anybody to speak in favor? Anybody to speak against? Seeing none, I declare this hearing closed. Are there any questions from the council on the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. There is no old business. Under new business, in order to approve and authorize the city manager to sign the ultimate airport layout plan, not just any.
Can we make fun of that all night?
I know.
love that word.
So, Allison.
You're extreme all the time, but not ultimate. Very often.
Could you present the ultimate airport experience for us?
Yes, it would be my pleasure. I'm Allison Navia. I'm the airport manager of our Sanford Seacoast Regional Airport. And tonight we're going to go over the ultimate airport layout plan and hopefully get your approval so that Steve can sign it and we can move ahead with it. Can I share? There we go. All right, so the ultimate airport layout plan. To zoom out from that, we have our business plan, and those 2 goals that are in our business plan, maintaining a high level of safety, security, and maintenance, and then reaching, maintaining, and fostering self-sufficiency financially. Those 2 things, if it doesn't line up with that and a project shows up or something comes around at the airport, then we don't do it. So with those 2 things in mind, that's how we move through different things over at the airport. I wanted to put this in. I've shown you this before. This is not fully burdened, so it doesn't have grant revenues, but it also doesn't have all the expenses like workers' comp and insurance and things like that. It's meant to just be an illustration to kind of overall show basic expenses and basic revenues. You can see that they stayed really flat from about 2005 till about 2017, 2018. And then your expenses went up when you got your first ever full-time airport manager. And then your revenues then shot up when the solar project went online. So that really boosted us. And you can see we've continued tracking in a positive trajectory on both of them. So we're going to continue with that. Underneath that goal, there's also the objective to keep up with this airport master plan every time it needs to be updated, so that whenever someone shows up and there's any kind of development that we want to do, we do it in an orderly way, kind of like zoning, same thing, making sure like things go in like with other like things, and then that they're in the right place. So we don't say, yep, we'd love you to do that, and then 10 years later when someone else shows up, we say, shoot, I wish we hadn't have put that there. It's going to mess up something else. So that's the idea behind the whole planning project. We ended up splitting it into 2 grants from FAA, the first one and this one, and the resultant plan that we're looking at tonight really only looked at hangar siting, and then also parking, aircraft parking areas. And then the one that we're going to work on that we've applied for this year looks more at taxiway orientation, airfield geometry, and airspace. So it's a little bit more technical and less fun than this one that looks at where all the buildings can be and how that's all going to be laid out. So we looked at the terminal area, we looked at the west side, and we also looked at the east side. It's how we typically refer to the different areas of the airport. So what is an airport master plan? It's a study. So we work with a consulting firm that specializes in this, and we go through and do an inventory. We have public involvement, so we had several workshops that were open to the public and open to tenants. They did interviews of airport businesses and tenants to see what their input was and what they've noticed. Then we look at the full inventory of everything that we have currently and what the forecast looks like, backing up where we've been and then where we're going, and they compare that to the federal forecast. So one of the things that made this project take a really long time is that our forecast is higher than the national average because the airport's just been growing so quickly that it necessitated us to do this. So it took a while for FAA to buy into the percentages that we were using and the trajectory that we think that the airport's going. Once that's all approved, then we look at the facility requirements, we look at different alternatives, and then pick the best ones that we want to go with, and that is what gets us up to the actual plan that we come up with. So the 2 deliverables that we have that were attached in your packet, one is the narrative, so that is the little booklet that talks about all those things I just described. If you want to go cheat codes, you can just go to the alternatives and what we determined, and that kind of summarizes everything. You don't have to go through and read all the pages before that. And then we get the...
First of all, how many of you really read every page? I just thought we'd be honest about it.
Yeah, lots of acronyms, lots of heavy data and things like that. If you just go right to the end and say, we picked this alternative because, and that's what it's going to look like, that's kind of how you get to that.
Really needs an acronym table.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. There's a lot of jargon in there. The airport layout plan set, that's the set of all the maps that comes with it as a deliverable. So we get the existing conditions, the ultimate ALP, the data sheet that looks at, wind directions, and it has the table of the measurements of every type of pavement that we have, and then the Exhibit A property map, which is the official property map of the airport that I'll show you at the end. So this is an example of when we were doing inventory and we looked at each color is a different type of traffic and how they use the gates and where they're going to get to where they are to try to figure out, can we simplify our gates? Should we add gates, put different ones there, and came up with an idea in the end, because you can see any of this flow, like the green and the purple, that are going across an aircraft parking area where there's lots of activity and the fuel farm and everything. We want to try to keep that as consolidated as possible. So we got to see what it all looks like and then make a plan of how we were going to handle it after that. So this is the actual ultimate airport layout plan. So it has the boxes for signatures. The FAA has approved this, DOT has approved this for the state of Maine. It's been before the planning board, and then once you approve it, then the local signature. And all 3 signatures have to be on it for it to be the approved ALP. So this has full buy-in from everyone who's involved with funding and operating and rulemaking on the airport. Apologize for how the PDF turned out, that it has like little dark circles there, but this covers all 1,300 acres of the airport, and it shows in color coding where the buildings are. And what I asked them to do was to give us 3 zoomed in maps so that it would be easier to print them and look at them so when we go through and do the planning. So when you look at this, anything that's the darker gray, that's new or redone pavement. Anything that's the darker green is a short-term hangar development. The lighter green is short-term pavement development as far as airfield, like aircraft pavement. And then the purple would be longer-term, like 5 years or out of what we were guessing might happen. So you can see on this east side, we're showing a new driveway. If you start all the way to the left and work over, a new driveway, so that would be gate 5. That's what we're working on right now. And that's gonna improve that circulation and keep all of that so they're not driving across the ramp. We show a bunch of added parking, which we need over in the parking lot for 199 Airport Road, getting rid of one of the entrances and moving it over so that it aligns better with traffic. And then reuse that dark green, the bigger one there next to 109, that is imagining maybe a theoretical reuse of where the fire station is currently, a bigger hangar over there or something of that nature. And then filling in all of the hangars along the taxi lanes. And then we get over to the area that's across from that signalized intersection of Walmart and Lowe's, thinking of if we purchased one or both of those lots, we showed it split up, what that could look like with an access road and a terminal, a full proper terminal building, and then a new apron that could have de-icing capability, big clear span hangars that can have jets inside of them, which we don't currently have. So we have nowhere to put a jet inside now. So in inclement weather or in the wintertime, because we don't have any de-icing capability either, they just go somewhere else. So this would fill that gap. That's one of the things that we're missing as an airport. That's the east side. The west side, so this is over where the airport administration and maintenance building is. You can see the tan buildings are existing, and then it shows Presidential Lane with the full build out and all the buildings that we have scheduled to be put in. So some of these, even some of the purple ones, like this purple, can you see my cursor on there? This purple one right here is not 5 years out. They're building that right now. And then we've got these 3 going in this year. That's going to be the flight school expansion. So there's a whole separate flight department that's getting built. He ordered 4 more airplanes, so they're going to have 12 airplanes that are just flight school airplanes, and they're building 16 more units just to house those aircraft and their personnel for that. So that's really cool. We're showing another big apron over here, another expansion, and that would be overflow parking when you see it in the summer and it's all backed up, and then we have jets that are over on the other side. This would be able to accommodate them because we won't be able to park them down Charlie once all those hangars are built. And then one of these 10-unit T hangars is also, the roof just got dropped off on Monday. So that one's getting ready to go to construction, and then we show a few others further on down the line. So those will all fill in. What's new and was never shown before with any development is this area down on the end. So this is on the end of the industrial park where Baker is. So if you kept going straight on Gatehouse Road and made that little extension there, we're now showing some hangars could be built over there. So we did some feasibility on how big they could be and what it might look like. So those are a placeholder. If we fill in all these other spots, now we can start looking at this spot that no master plan so far has ever identified for development. So those are exciting and new down there. This is the Exhibit A, and I apologize, it's really hard to see unless you look at a big printed out picture of it. But this is the official property map with all the surveyed boundaries. The table that's on the right side shows every parcel, who it came from, the year, the book and page number, and how it was acquired, whether it was federal surplus property. So it's kind of neat because it goes through in history and shows that, there's the one huge parcel that we got in 1947 from the federal government, and then all the little parts and pieces that added up to all those 1,300 acres are identified in there. The color coding in the other tables identify either existing approved non-aeronautical use. So you see the hash marks of where the solar is. So that's where we did that land release years ago. That has to be shown on the Exhibit A. It also shows another hash mark up in the corner. That's a property easement. That's the IF&W, Bugs and Bunnies conservation easement up in that corner. And then the purple and the color coding, so the purple is the one that we're working on right now. That's the shooting range for Sanford Springvale Fish and Game and for the police department, and a portion of that property that we're looking to sell for industrial use to rub building systems. So that appraisal just came in. Everything looks good and favorable. They accept what the price is going to be per acre. I just got that today. And so they're firing away pending this is all approved, because this is kind of like the tentative approval for the release. Pending that, then they're going to move forward with the survey out all the boundaries. Once they give me that appraisal and the survey, I can compile a land release request to FAA and then send that out for approval to go to then the Department of Defense, and they'll release it also. It has to be shown on the Exhibit A for FAA to even look at it. So this is step one. Once we get to that, part of that project will be updating this map again so that it then shows it as not part of the airport's property anymore. The other ones are showing either the green is the future acquisition, so that's across from Walmart and Lowe's. So that's just tentative. We wanted to show it on there just in case federal money came available. We have it on there already, so we're like one step ahead. And then the other ones are showing future easement acquisition for land clearing for trees and things like that. So that's the Exhibit A. And then I found in the closet this master plan from 1976 with this old aerial and this updated aerial that shows how different it looks now. So I thought that was pretty neat. Any questions that you have?
Just a couple of comments. One of the reasons you're creating more hangars is because you have a huge waiting list. So it's not like you're just putting them up for no reason. So I didn't know if you all knew that there is a waiting list, and probably as many as you can build, they will come.
Yep, and the thing I'll mention also is that many municipalities build their own hangars that they own, and in our business plan, we don't do it that way. They're all privately owned. So whenever you see all of those going up, that's private development, people that want to invest in our airport and put their money into it. So those not only benefit the airport by making it more self-sufficient, but all the property value is now taxable property value. And that's not somebody who's using the school system and really typically a lot of the, the services. So that's new taxable value that's coming in. And the ones that we have going on this year is about 2.2 million worth.
So basically, and if people want to know, the reason we got a bond to build the infrastructure was so that the hangars could then go in quickly. So we did all the pre-permitting, so the lot was ready to go. And that's where the city has been aggressive through Allison's work.
Excellent. Ann?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to comment my appreciation to Allison. Our airport under your leadership has really improved, and it's really exciting to see the progress. The numbers obviously are nice to see as well, but just the development of the airport and making it a real resource here in Southern Maine is a huge benefit to our community. So thank you for your efforts that have brought us to this point. With your team, I know, but I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Pete?
And I just wanted to point out to everybody, the municipality is not the landlord, and we don't have to upkeep these buildings. I just thought that was pretty awesome when you pointed that out, so I wanted everybody else to understand we don't have any type of responsibility to those buildings. So it's a big deal, so thank you.
Yeah, it seems good and tempting short-term because you'd make more money off renting the units. But then in 10, 20 years, when you have to put a new roof on or a new hangar door, just one of those hangar doors can be $50,000, $60,000. So imagine me coming to a CIP meeting in the budget to put a $60,000 door on somebody's aircraft hangar. It's just tough to sell. So this way it works better because the private sector then invests in it and they take good care of it. Works out good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Yes. All right. Can I have a motion, please? Nate?
I'll move to approve the, authorize the city manager to sign the ultimate airport layout plan.
We're having fun with you, Allison. We have, Ann, a second?
And I would second that, yes.
All right. All those in favor? Thank you. In order to appoint Michael Frazier to the position of trustee of Sanford Sewage District to fill an unexpired term, shouldn't it be an expired term, until November 4th, 2025. May I have a motion, please? Nate, Pete?
A motion to appoint Michael Frazier to the position of trustee of the Sanford Sewage District.
Okay, until November 4th, 2025.
Oh, yeah, for the unexpired term.
Yeah. Can I have a second, please? All right, all those in favor? Thank you. And in order to ratify a labor agreement between the City of Sanford and Sanford Regional Communication Association for the period of July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2028.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table this. Oh, sorry.
You need to wait. Maura, I'm assuming your hand's up? Okay, Maura, go ahead.
You know, we're getting close to, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table this item.
I'd like to second that table.
All those in favor? Or was there any discussion on that? You don't discuss, you just vote? Okay, thank you, Ann. Somebody knew. Thanks, Ann.
It's the tabling item.
Excellent. The next is, and the last, in order to enter a contract for services and final negotiation of the scope of services with Casella, thank you, Waste for preview vendor resulting from the city's recent RFP process for a new municipal solid waste and a single sort recycling curbside collection contract for the next 5 years. So I'm assuming, Matt, that's why you're smiling, looking at me, going, it's my turn, finally. Go ahead, Matt.
Great, thank you. Yes, so the city advertised through public advertisement for a replacement for the curbside collection contract. We had 3 qualifying responses, one from Casella Waste Systems, one from Wind Waste Systems, and the other one from Waste Management. We were very impressed with the professionalism of all 3 of the companies. After opening the proposals and reading through them and weighing their cost benefits and their scopes, we invited all 3 of them in for interviews where we put more detailed questions to them about exactly what they were proposing and how it would benefit the city. Ultimately, Casella, who is our current and historical curbside collection vendor, presented the best combination of benefits to cost. They were by far the lowest cost on the proposal, and they also, came close to some of the really like great bells and whistles that at least one of the other proposers had put out there. So we felt like, this was a win for the city, and that, it's obviously more economically sound, but there's also some room for growth there in that the writing on the wall for the entire program is that we're going to be going to automated. There were none of the proposers proposed manual collection. Casella also offered the opportunity to kind of stick with our existing system until such time as they get the correct trucks and equipment ready to move over to the automated. And then they also proposed some of the administrative oversight, and that's part of what you see in front of you here tonight, is that, this is not approval of their scope that they submitted. This is approval to move into negotiations with them, because we want some of those bells and whistles, but we also want to effectively manage it through the department and through, their administrative staff. We don't want everything to fall back on, the 2 people that we have in the Public Works office who are not ready to receive, 7,500 phone calls about, distributing automated containers. So I'd be very happy to take questions about the programs, the process, and anything else you might have about these contracts.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Bob has one.
Matt, I think you mentioned that, and I know this is hypothetical at this point, would probably more like a year to 2 before we had the opportunity to go to automation. I'm just trying to prepare the citizenry, let them know it's likely coming. And as you say, it doesn't look like it's avoidable that we're not going to move to containers, and that it's not going to happen quickly, but a year or so we may be moving to the containers. Is that a pretty good summary?
Yes. So there's a couple additional comments on that. One is that the turnaround time for order the trucks once we get the contract signed is over a year. So they're special order trucks. As far as the automated containers themselves, the timeline on those is generally about 6 months, but the city's going to be needing to do outreach in order to try to get those effectively distributed. We're also going to have to go back and do some hard work within the department and at the subcommittee level about exactly who's in the program and who isn't. Because now that we've gone to automated containers, there's a potential that perhaps these automated trucks will collect on private roadways, which I think for some residents in Sanford would be a huge win. There's also aspects of the program where they are proposing to direct haul the MSW instead of tipping it at our transfer station. So there's some reallocation of labor that we have an opportunity to do there where we can make our operation more efficient and get the people that are previously like taking all that solid waste up to Portland, almost on a daily basis and get them doing other very productive things. So there's still a lot to go. And I think, part of that ask on the negotiation is we're recognizing this is the best proposal and the best effort for Sanford. Now we just have to kind of fine tune everything. And I guess I'll defer to Steve to talk a little bit about the Eco-Main agreement, which kind of goes hand in glove with this curbside collection agreement.
I'll make one more point.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm trying to bring out the finer points here. Matt, both you and I know the answers to these questions, I think, but we'll make them available to the general public. In the trash metering service, is that something that Casella is going to be able to do or in the future? In other words, you would pay a monthly fee for your trash pickup?
So that's something that we looked at really closely. And one of the other proposers had actually proposed an entire system where essentially the resident would contract with the curbside collector directly. And they proposed removing the pay-as-you-throw bag system. Ultimately, let me go into a little bit of the thought process on this, is that essentially would have privatized trash collection in Sanford, which in some ways, gets it out of the public works hair, like, oh, we don't have to deal with that anymore. But in other ways, we're turning it over to a company that now we're essentially, negotiating on behalf of the public for private contracts. So there was some concern there that, it was taking the control a little bit, taking our fate and future out of our hands. Ultimately, the pay-as-you-throw program in the orange bag was the preferred method of metering for Casella, but they really left it up to the city. So if the city wanted to, charge a monthly bill to each resident, we could go about doing that, but we would also have to track down, and maintain all of those accounts, do all the billing, all the collection, and you can quickly see, like, for I mentioned 7,500, so that's the approximate number of stops in Sanford and Springfield right now, 7,500. So you can imagine all of a sudden our office needs to take on 7,500 billing accounts. It obviously kind of blows us out of the water. So the pay-as-you-throw program ultimately basically halves the cost of the service. So it just ended up, and I know there's been some harsh and vocal critics of the pay-as-you-throw bag program and the quality of the bags. We continue to work, night and day with Waste Zero, the company that does that. And I would continue to advocate that the pay-as-you-throw program, with kind of the two legs of the metering with the bag and the residential amount of single-sort recycling, is a tried and true method where we're not making enough money to pay for the entire program, but we've got, the majority of our costs covered through a cost-based or a service-based program for the resident. So like you've said many times, Bob, there's, if you want to throw away 5 bags of trash, that's how much it costs you for that day. And if you only want to do 1, that's 1. So it's basically, it costs what you want to put into it or what you're putting into it.
Yeah, it just seemed, I'll say the nasty words, orange bags. It just seemed like a good time to bring that subject up and to hash that out so that the public hears it. It sounds like not having the orange bags is a possibility in the future, but there are a lot of trade-offs for that in terms of equity, which is the main point you were making, but in terms of equity, et cetera. So that's going to be a further, I think, conversation that well, I'll just say the city council is going to have with the public to see where they want to go with that. So thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay. Steve?
So let me add these points to the conversation. So there's a lot going on in the curbside collection. There's a lot interconnected between solid waste contract and recycling contract. So that is the EcoMaine. So that was the 30-year agreement that the council authorized here a few weeks back. I've inked that agreement with EcoMaine. In fact, that was inked the day before these RFPs finally came in. What do I know about the city of Sanford? It needs to have a secure future for its solid waste and recycling disposition. EcoMaine contract does that for us. We deem that as being the best option. Two, people want to pay as little for a good service as possible. They want cost-effective service. So that's what we're talking about in the curbside collection. Between the 3 qualified vendors that we have, 2 of those 3 vendors were $6 million higher when we look at the total 5-year cost. Now, they all approached it differently and achieved it in different fashions, but Casella is $6 million lower in the 5-year expense than the other 2 vendors. That's significant. If it's a perfect world and money was no object, there's one vendor in here that's just hands off, touch nothing, do nothing, they take over everything. That would be great, right? But that's, 4 times more expensive than what you're paying currently. So as we express to the vendors, even though their pricing, when I look at the rest of the world, is competitive, for us, Sanford, we've had a very cost-effective program over the years. Waste disposal cost has gone up. A lot of other things have gone up. Transportation has gone up. But we are still one of the lowest cost services out there for total services. So I said, when you look at it from that perspective, if our residents see this fee for service going from what it is today to something 3 or 4 times higher, even though in the rest of the world, that's the normal cost, it's not acceptable for us, right? Thus, the Casella contract comes in very favorably. So please note in the order, I'm asking for the authorization with the recommendation to sign on the Casella agreement, but it says in final negotiations of scope of services. So what we find very pleasing with the Casella piece is in the first year, so our current contract with Casella goes through the way they perform services for us through the end of June 2026. They will then spend the next year ordering the equipment, containers and such into that, but they'll do the pickup curbside collection no differently than it is now. You set your orange bag out, you set your recycling container out, and they'll collect those as they do now with the same truck and staff. In that second year of the contract, the automated containers will be in place. Something you need, Matt? No, okay. The automated containers will be in place and they'll start the automated collection. We'll still be using the orange bag. Hate to use that word, Bob. We still have to use the orange bag because that is the collection mechanism. That's how the fee for service is collected. The favorable thing I see with Casella is we don't have a billing service. If we were running a water or sewer district where we had that in-house billing service already going out and doing those quarterly billings and such into that, likely we would recommend, okay, we'll just take on billing services to the residents, right? The equity starts to go away because we're going to have not more than two different container choices at best, right? And you're going to be billed according to that. So right now, if you went away on vacation or something like that, and you didn't fill an orange bag or something, you're not paying for anything that week, right? But under the container collection system, you will, right? You'll be paying for that. Whether you put 2 items in there or you fill it to the brim, you're going to be paying, right? Under that system of not using the orange bag. So right now, we have the ability to ease our way into this newly formed system. With Casella has that flexibility. They don't just do it one way. So they're going to the automated technology, for example, with the town of Falmouth right now, and they're really pushing hard on technology, and they're doing things in different ways. We have the ability to observe, look at, pick what's best out of that and such. What I also hear from Casella is we don't have a billing department to do this currently, but there's the economy of scale that's developing for that to happen in the future, right? So we would have the option of getting rid of the bag at that point in time, doing quarterly billing and such. We can ease into that. You're not making that decision tonight, but you have the options to do that in the future, whereas the other two companies said, nope, this is the way we do it, take it or leave it, right? So all of that has been factored in there. There's a $227,000 savings in that first 5-year period that comes from our reduction in the hauling cost that we would incur under the old system, that's going away. So that fed in favorably to Casella's proposal. What else do I want to talk about? Other options that we're exploring with Casella. So in their proposal, you'll see for year one, there's no cart cost in there because they're going to continue to curbside collect as they currently are. But years 2 through 5, so over the next 4 years, they're amortizing the full cost of those containers coming online. Well, we know those containers have a minimum of a 10-year warranty, and they're assets they'll last longer than that. So I've asked them to come back and give us another proposal amortizing those containers over a 10-year span. That will significantly reduce that cart cost that's part of the equation in there. But right now, it's contributing about $2.50 per week in new cost, whereas if you can do that over a 10-year period as opposed to 4, you can lower that number. So there's a lot of flexibility in there that we've calculated in. The other factor that we know is when you use the pay-as-you-throw system as you do now, it's time-proven, it's equitable, it's a fee for service, it's the easiest way and the best way to collect the revenues. When you look at how that program is administered, there's $160,000 worth of cost per year that goes into the production of the bags, the distribution of the bags, that then gets that on the shelf that you can buy a sleeve and take that home with you. So what can you do better or differently with that $160,000 cost? You could run a billing department and go quarterly payments and get rid of the bag. Or you could look for a greater economy of scale that Casella takes on that billing, because they're doing it for multiple communities now, at a much lower cost than we could do it just ourselves, right? So you see all of these options that are playing out there that by taking on the Casella contract, we have the ability to keep chipping away and amending at that to keep our cost system as efficient and cost-effective as possible. So that's all part of the recommendations that go along with this. And one of the vendors would only take our services if our waste went to them, and it was shorter term, and we didn't get the 30-year assurance that we're getting out of the EcoMaine contract. So, thank you.
Any questions? May I have a motion, please?
I'll move we approve the contract with Casella.
Thank you. Second, Pete?
I second that.
All right, all those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
We are finally at the end. Thank you, Matt. Council member comments? Nate?
Yep, it's that time of year. Sanford Manor's home opener is this Friday at 6:30 at Goodall Park. Be there or be square. There's also a doubleheader that's the following day. Of course, both of those are weather permitting, fingers crossed. Not like it's been raining every weekend since January. And then the second comment is just, be careful out there on those roads. It's summertime, people are out and about. I've been hearing a few things about some, especially motorcycle accidents that have been going on lately. It's that time of year, so everyone just keep out on the road, be safe. Thank you.
All right, Ann?
I'll beat everybody else to the punch to wish the 2025 graduating Sanford High School class congratulations. And I think commencement is tomorrow evening. It's going to be like 90 degrees, of course, for graduation, so that would be fun. but sunny, so we'll take it. But it's a huge thing. My kids tease me because I still have school spirit, and it's been like 30-something years since I graduated. But I do feel a deep appreciation for our school department and these kids every year that leave Sanford schools ready for their workforce or for secondary education or our entrepreneurs right out of the gate. And it's really kudos to our school department. I know they feel like I beat them up during budget season, but I really do appreciate them. But anyway, congratulations, class of 2025.
Thank you. Maura?
Can I just add to that? I went to the awards night last night, and they don't announce specifically anymore what the scholarship numbers are, but she did say at the beginning that $214,000 went through these scholarships funds. And when you look at the look at the list of the scholarships, and you see all the local entities, you see the names of people I remember. I mean, I don't know if any of you remember Ina Chalker. I mean, Jesus, that goes back. She was the principal secretary at the high school back when I was there, and she still has a scholarship in her name. So it was kind of fun to see all those names of people I knew and the organizations that support scholarships, including Sanford Mainers. It was nice. It was really nice to see, and I can't believe there are so many of them. But $214,000 is what went out last night to some of our students.
That's fantastic. Anyone else? Any future agenda items? Remember, you can always text me or give me a call. We can add stuff if need be. All right. I will adjourn this meeting at